I filmed this video a while ago, but I'm refilming it because I have more thoughts and more things to say and just more in general. Hello everyone and welcome to Fistful of Feminism. My name is Monica and today I want to talk about white feminism and not being accountable. So on this channel you've probably heard me talk a lot about white feminism. The best way to describe white feminism is basically a branch or a brand of feminism that centers primarily around the struggles, realities, and lived experiences of only white women. To push that even further, white feminism really doesn't take into account a lot of different things. So it's usually preoccupied with white Western women, doesn't take into account race, ability, class, so many different things. Basically, white feminism is the worst. And you may be familiar with some of the earliest waves of white feminism, which most people will recognize in movies like Suffragette. In lots of the feminist history that you might have been taught in schools, it focused primarily around white women. Feminism has to be intersectional in order to be feminism really at all, because the concerns of white women are not the concerns of many other different kinds of racialized identities. So in the context of North America, which is a heteropatriarchal capitalist society, white feminism actually is very important to talk about. I could go on and on about the actual roots of white feminism and the history and the politics that goes with white feminism, but that's not exactly what I want to talk about today. What I want to talk about is feminists that I see in my life that are not being accountable for their white feminism. So the thing with intersectional feminism is that we're always learning. We're always learning new ways that we can become better with our feminism, how our feminism can be more intersectional, listening to marginalized voices so that our feminism does not become the oppression that we're seeking to dismantle. And this is actually really important because our feminism can be oppressive if we're not being intersectional and not checking our privilege all the time. Basically, we've all been sponges in this terrible heteropatriarchal society, so we've taken in all of these lessons that they've taught us and we've internalized it. So sometimes our feminism might be reflecting that even though we don't mean to. Of course, intent does not outweigh impact. And so this is why it's so important that we all remain accountable. When I say that it's important to remain accountable, it means that you are accountable for what you might say, do, your actions, your feminism. So example, if you are calling yourself a feminist in online spaces and then you go ahead and say some very unfeminist things, very unintersectional things, and someone else calls you out on that, our job as intersectional feminists is to remain accountable, to apologize when we need to learn when we need to, and to keep moving forward. When white feminists are unaccountable on the internet, in feminist spaces, etc., this becomes an incredibly big problem. I'm seeing more and more in my life that lots of white women who are including themselves in the feminist movement, which is great, awesome, that's awesome that you want to call yourself a feminist. But being a feminist requires work. It requires constant reevaluation, and that's not just on the part of white women, that's on the part of anyone who is of a feminized identity. That includes women of color, trans women of color, everyone. And intersectional feminists know that. We know that we have to always get better. For instance, my feminism is a very distinct kind of feminism from a mixed race point of view, from a transnational subject positioning with my family history. My feminism is very unique. But that does not mean that I'm always perfect. What I'm trying to get better at is watching my ableist language and making sure that I'm not perpetuating ableism. That is a part of me that is so much ingrained that I've heard ableist language all my life, and I'm catching it more and more often these days, which is good, but it's also a reminder to myself that the work is never done. I have to constantly strive to get better. I have to call myself out on a daily basis to make sure that I am still being intersectional. And yes, sometimes I fail, sometimes you fail, sometimes we all fail. And it is okay to fail as long as you are being accountable. All of this to say, I'm finding myself very, very frustrated with people that I'm seeing in my life that are not being accountable. If I'm gonna be completely honest and be completely blunt, I don't think you can say that you're a feminist if you're not willing to be called out on things. But again, no one is perfect, and no other feminist is demanding that other feminists be perfect. We can't be perfect, but we can be accountable. I also want to say that this doesn't just include women who identify as feminists. This includes non-binary people who identify as feminists. This includes men who identify as feminists. All of us should be working on our feminism constantly, around the clock, making sure that we are not becoming the oppressors. So, dear white feminists out there, just stop. If you find that you're excluding folks from your feminism, A, take some time to reflect on that, and B, realize that that's not intersectional feminism. If you're a trans exclusionary radical feminist, you're not really a feminist. If you're a feminist that fails to be accountable for the things that you say online, in real life, in whatever, that's not really feminism. I don't think your feminism should be perfect, because none of our feminism is perfect. But we have to be listening to other people, and we have to be accountable if we want our feminism to be as intersectional as possible, so that we're all fighting for a more just and fair society. Really grumpy about this subject for a little while, because apparently there are so many white feminists in my sphere and people that I know, and it's just not okay. Feminism is not a contest. All of us are working to make ourselves better and to dismantle oppressive systems. So it's not a race, it's not a contest, and you don't need to be the most perfect feminist. Because chances are, if you're trying to be the best feminist and basically out-feminist everyone else, you're probably not doing a very intersectional job. So just know that feminism is more than pushing past girl hate. Feminism is more than just gender equality. Feminism is more than the choice to wear makeup or not, the choice to shave or not, the choice to do anything with your body or not. Yes, those are all incredibly important things, but there are other important things too, like racialized violence, like police brutality, like systems of colonization that are still in place and still oppressing indigenous people in this country. Accessibility matters to feminism. Discrimination among class lines is important to feminism. But most importantly, all of these things combined are what make intersectional feminism feminism. So for the love of all that is mighty, stop excluding all of these systems. Just getting me right in the heart today. I'm just very frustrated. That is what I have to say about white feminism and about not being accountable today. I really hope that this has let me vent my frustration a little bit, but you maybe also learned something for this, and if you are behaving in such a way, maybe now you can become more accountable and change your behavior. And on that note, I'm going to leave it here for today. So, where do you see examples of white feminism in the media, in your communities, in your friends? Leave a comment down below and let me know your own frustrations with white feminism. What are some ways that you think that we can all contribute to a more intersectional feminism? What are the most strategic and best ways that you call out white feminist behavior in your own communities? I would love to hear your thoughts, as I'm finding it a little frustrating and a little hard to deal with when people don't want to be called out and resort to name calling, stuff like that, if they can't handle it. So any tips or advice, leave that down below. I would greatly appreciate it. As always, if you like, you can subscribe and go there and da-da-da. And I'll see you guys not next Friday, but the Friday after that for probably some more ranting, because I guess that's just what I've been doing for a couple weeks, because I have things to say, god damn it. Okay, bye.